How's it going, everybody? It's your man Lampini here again, back again with another fantastic review and predictions for Week 5. NFL Week 4 was certainly an interesting one. We made some strides with some teams took a step back. It wasn't as exciting as Week 3. Well, the Thursday night game certainly was, but for bad reasons. In any case, predictions coming your way. And we're going to review some of these Week 4 games as well. So without further ado, let's kick it off with Thursday Night Football. So Thursday night, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos. So these are two teams that have really underperformed this season. A lot of people had higher expectations for Russell Wilson with the Denver Broncos. They lost out to the Raiders last week, just narrowly. This was objectively Russell Wilson's best game, though. He was 17 for 25. 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown, so those are typical Russell Wilson numbers. They ended up not coming up with the win, though. That one, 60-yard fumble recovery touchdown really killed them in that game. As for the Colts, Matt Ryan was 27 of 37, 356 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Not a bad stat line, but they were never in that game against the Titans. The Titans kind of controlled the entire thing. It's really weird. The Colts came in, and they had a very strong win against the Chiefs. And then they're back to their mediocre ways against the Tennessee Titans. So both of these teams, I'd say, are at a crossroad right now. The Broncos are 2-2. Colts are 1-2-1. So the Colts are... I think the Colts need this win a lot more than the Broncos do. Matt Ryan has been playing all right. He's had on and off games, which is very weird. I thought that he was really going to go off with the Colts in a better situation, considering how Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz did. But that's not really what's happened. I'm going to be going with the Broncos on this one. I think they're a more well-rounded team. It just seems like the Colts they have something missing this season. And I'm not sure what it was, because on paper they have a lot of talent, but they just can't seem to put it together. And the Broncos haven't looked that great either, but they've still squeaked by with 2 wins, and I think they're going to get this one, advancing to 3-2. So next up, we have the 3-1 New York Giants at the 3-1 Green Bay Packers. So it seems as though the Packers have gotten past their Week 1 woes when they were demolished in Week 1, like I knew they would. They've pulled off 3 straight wins, and they're looking like the Packers of the last couple years that were 3 straight 13-win teams. They're back. As for the Giants, though, this has been a big surprise for them. A lot of their success has been on Saquon Barkley's shoulders. He's had a very good season so far. It was a bit concerning, though, with the Giants at the end of the game, though, because Daniel Jones ended up leaving the game, and then so did Tyrod Taylor. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up starting for them in this following game against the Packers, because they're going to need all the help that they can get. As for the Giants in their game last week, Daniel Jones was 8 of 13, 71 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. So Daniel Jones getting it done with his legs. Saquon Barkley had 31 carries for 146 yards. He's on track for being comeback player of the year. He is back in rookie form this season, and I love to see it. I hate seeing running backs get injured and then their career gets, held back because of those injuries. He's done a very good job of bouncing back. As for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, I think, is starting to get in the rhythm a little bit, relying on the multiple different average wide receiving targets that he has. Aaron Rodgers himself was 21 of 35, 251 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Aaron Jones, 16 carries, 11 yards. Allen Lazard was their leading receiver. He had 6 receptions for 116 yards. Aaron Rodgers is throwing a lot more interceptions this season than he has in the past. He looks like he's on track for throwing double-digit interceptions for the first time in 10 years. So that'll be very interesting. I don't think it's Aaron Rodgers losing a step or anything. I just think that he doesn't have as talented of a team around him, but he's making it work for sure. In this game, it's always hard to win at Lambeau. I think the Packers are a very well-rounded team. I think their defense is very strong as well. I think it gets overshadowed because they have Aaron Rodgers and they also have the Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon running attack, but they do have a very solid defense. That's what keeps the Packers at the top of the NFL year in and year out. So you need to have an upper above average defense, and they have that. I think the Giants aren't a fluke for going 3-1. I think they're a legitimately good team. But I don't think they're going to beat the Packers, and the Packers are going to take this one. It might be close, but I just think that Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau, Daniel Jones, if he's their quarterback, even if Tyrod Taylor's their quarterback, I don't think they're going to be able to lead them to a win on the road at Lambeau. So I'm going to be going with the Packers on this one. All right, so this next game is quite a crossroads for one of the teams involved. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. So the Steelers lost the game that they frankly should have won against the Jets. It seems as though the Steelers play to their competition. Mitch Trubisky did not have a good game. 7 of 13, 84 yards, and an interception. It was so bad that they brought in Kenny Pickett in the second half to try and get their offense going. And he did. He was 10 for 13, 120 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He threw 3 interceptions, but if you watched the game, they weren't his fault. It was on 2 tipped balls, and then the third one was a Hail Mary at the end of the game. So I think Kenny Pickett did very well. If you want my opinion, I think they should make a switch because I watched this game against the Jets, and Mitch just can't run their offense. They just get nothing done on offense under Mitch Trubisky, and Kenny Pickett was at least able to move the team. If Kenny Pickett started that game, then he probably would have won it because the Jets, it looked good, but they gave the Steelers a lot of opportunities to win this game. George Pickens finally had a good game. He was 6 receptions for 102 yards. They need to get him involved. He's fantastic. He catches anything that gets thrown to him. A legitimate number 2, he might even be better than Deontay Johnson. That guy is insane. He's on my fantasy team too, so I've been following him very, very closely. Yeah, the Steelers are at a bit of a crossroads right now. If they knew what was good for them, they would start Kenny Pickett. As for the Bills, they're still top team in the league. Josh Allen was 19 of 36, 213 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He had 11 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown as well, though. So, again, that's very impressive by Josh Allen. I think he's still in the front running for MVP. The Bills had a very good comeback win against the Ravens, showing that they can come back and win. I don't think that the Bills have any weaknesses right now. I think they're a solid all-around team, and it just comes down to the day they play. If they show up as the better team. If another team, if a team like the Dolphins can kind of squeak by with a win, or you can get them on that last play of the drive like the Chiefs did in the playoffs, seems to be the only way to beat the Bills. They're not the best team in the league. I think that's going to come a little bit later, and I was going to say it's not a team you expect, but they're the only undefeated team left, so they're obviously going to be the best team. But at least in the AFC, the Bills still own the AFC. I think that they are going to beat the Steelers. You can never really count out the Steelers. They always, like I said, they play to their opponents. They play to their competition, which means that when they play a team like the Bills, they play better. But they're not beating the Bills at home, I don't think. So the Steelers are going to drop to 1-4. Wow, not good for them. So next up, we have the LA Chargers at the Cleveland Browns. So these are two teams that have great expectations, and they haven't really lived up to it. The Chargers almost blew a lead and almost ended up losing their game. They eventually did win, though, thankfully. As for the Browns, they lost to the Falcons. Not very good. Under Jacoby Brissett, the Browns are playing pretty well, though, and Jacoby Brissett is making some plays. He was 21 of 35 for 234 yards and an interception. He did have a really, really good rushing touchdown, though. He did it all by himself. A very nice single effort play, and he just, put the team on his back for that play. It was very, very impressive. Nick Chubb, 19 carries for 118 yards and a touchdown. He is also having an exceptional season. He is looking like he's on the All-Pro, on track to being an All-Pro. It seems like every time I review these games, he's having big games. So he's having a very great season. And like I said, you need to rely on guys like Nick Chubb when your quarterback is Jacoby Brissett. They're doing it very well. Lower tier starter, journeyman like Jacoby Brissett, you lean on your skilled players like Nick Chubb, and you let him put the team on their back, and they're 2-2. So, they're doing all they can. This is going to be a toss-up, though. The Chargers had a lot of offense in their game. Justin Herbert was 27 of 39, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns. Austin Eckler had 13 carries, 60 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He also had a receiving touchdown. And then Mike Williams, 7 receptions for 120 yards. So the Chargers offense is still booming. I think it's their defense that's the problem. You know, people were saying the Chargers were going to be one of the best teams in the league. On paper, they have a lot of talent, but it's how the team works together. And I think that that's something that's a bit lost on people when it comes to analyzing a team. That being said, I do think the Chargers are going to come away with this game. I think that their offense is just so high-powered that I think they're going to be able to outscore the Browns' offense. The Browns have a good defense, but the Chargers, they have one of the best offenses in the league. Austin Eckler is incredible. Justin Herbert is just unbelievable. The guy has a cannon for an arm. And Mike Williams has really emerged as a very good number 2 option when Keenan Allen is injured. So I think the Chargers are going to take this one. I think they're going to outscore the Browns. Expect it to be very high scoring, though. All right, guys. I didn't bring the helmet again. I think it's over for the helmet because this season is, well, after this game, it's officially going to be over as the Tennessee Titans are going to be playing at the Washington Commanders. To put it simply, the Commanders do not play well. They might be the worst team in the league, with the exception of the Texans. Their offensive line just gives no time for Carson Wentz to do anything. He was 25 of 42, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. I can't believe he managed to throw the ball 42 times because by the end of the first half, he had only thrown it like 13 times. And then they get down, and then Carson Wentz has to play hero ball and throw the ball all over the place to try and dig themselves out of a hole. This was a very winnable game for them. Dallas did not play very great. You know, our defense made stops. The thing that sticks in my mind the most is that we pinned them back. At one point, it was in like the second half. Defense did its job. They pinned them back inside their own end zone. They punted from outside of their end zone. He muffed the punt. We got the ball at our 30-yard line, and we didn't score a touchdown. We had to settle for a field goal. You're already in field goal range. And we couldn't even score. We couldn't even move the ball 30 yards to score a touchdown. That alone tells me the Commanders just aren't a good team. I don't know if it's problems with the offensive line or what, but we have talented guys on our team. We just can't leverage it. As for the Titans, they looked like the Titans of a couple years ago. Ryan Tannehill was 17 of 21 for 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry was 22 carries, 114 yards, and 1 touchdown. He got me about 30 fantasy points. So I was very happy about that. Derrick Henry seems to be back. Happy about that because he was my first-round pick. Tennessee Titans seem to be getting a bit of their stride back after having a slow start to the season. And I think the Commanders are just going to be jobber fodder for them. I think Derrick Henry is going to go off again, completely tear us apart. If the Commander, I'll be happy if the Commanders win. I just don't see any chance of it happening. If they beat the Titans, then maybe there is some optimism because I think we don't play a very good team after this. I want to say it's the Bears. Yeah, it's the Bears on Thursday night. So that's another winnable game for us. But if we drop down to 1-4, which I think is what's going to happen, like Commander season's pretty much over. So I'm going to be going with the Titans on this one. Take command. So next up, we have a division rivalry. We have the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. So non-primetime Kirk Cousins doing what he does best, led a nice game-winning drive to defeat the Saints. He was 25 of 38, 273 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Justin Jefferson was the star, 10 receptions, 147 yards. So Justin Jefferson having 2 off games these last 2. He came back with a vengeance with a really good game in London. It must be pretty crazy for London fans to see Kirk Cousins play this way because this isn't how we're used to seeing him play. So the Vikings have been on and off this season. They've had good performances like in week 1 against the Packers, and then they had a good performance here, and then they completely laid an egg against the Eagles in primetime. I think that's a mix of the Eagles being the best team in the league and Kirk Cousins playing in primetime, so I think that's why they didn't do very well. But Vikings, I think, are a team that we're going to see down the road as making a run for the playoffs because they're clearly a talented roster. They score a lot of points. They have a potent offense. All they need to have happen is for their defense to give them a chance by not giving up too many points. As for the Bears, Justin Fields is not the guy. He was 11 of 72 for 174 yards. Yeah, he's not the guy. I don't know if it's the Bears not being able to develop quarterbacks or if Justin Fields is just not talented enough, but he is just not in a place to succeed regardless. If there's any team I think that's worse than the Commanders, I'd say it's the Bears, in the NFC at least, because the Bears just, like, they have more wins than the Commanders, but, like, they just don't have a framework to succeed because they don't really have anyone on offense. They have, what's his name? Khalil Herbert. He's a good running back. He's had some pretty good games, but Justin Fields just is not a starter. He has shown nothing to me that makes me think that he can lead this team anywhere. So I think that they are going to lose this game. I think this is a perfect example of one of these games that if the Vikings are a playoff contender, this is a game that they need to win. It's a divisional rivalry game, so you never know. These teams play each other twice a year, every year, so they, tailor-make their team to play well against them, so you never know. But I am going to be going with the Vikings. It's at home. They're coming off a very good win. I'm going to be going with the Vikings on this one. All right, guys, so our next matchup is between two 1-3 teams. We have the Detroit Lions at the New England Patriots. These are two teams that are both 1-3. They got there in very different ways. For one thing, the Lions, listen to this statistic. The Lions have scored more than 35 points in all four of their games, and they're 1-3. That says a lot about their defense, but it also says a lot about their offense. Jared Goff was 26 of 39, 378 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Jamal Williams, 19 carries, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. TJ Hawkinson, 8 receptions, 179 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Those are crazy numbers for these guys. Probably TJ Hawkinson's best game. Jared Goff also had a great game, So it's just something with their defense. The Lions have one of the best offenses in the league right now, yet they're still 1-3. And that's because they let teams score all over them. So will the Patriots be able to do that, though? Absolutely not. The Patriots have had one of the worst offenses so far. And with Mac Jones out with that high ankle sprain, Brian Hoyer left with a concussion, we'll see if he's back. If he's not back, then the Mac Jones impersonator, this is his name. I don't even remember his name, but the Mac Jones impersonator will have to play. It's really weird how the Patriots have regressed since Brady left. It seems like their defense is still great, but their offense is just terrible. It seems as though Brady being there held that offense together. Because remember, the Patriots offense has never really had talented players. They had Gronk, they had Julian Edelman, Wes Welker. They had talent every now and then, but they were never stacked like what's happening with the Lions or what's happening with the Vikings or some of these other teams, with the exception of, when they had Randy Moss 10 years ago. But it seems like Brady was the one holding the stability on offense while Bill Belichick built elite defenses. And that's what made the Patriots competitive. It was the combination of the two of them. And without Brady, Bill Belichick needs to find a replacement quarterback soon, because it seems like Mac Jones isn't that guy. He had a very good rookie season, but I don't think he has the same... I hate to say, he doesn't have the same competitive edge or killer instinct. I don't think that's the case, but I don't think that he has the same... Maybe he doesn't take enough risks. I don't know. There's just something he doesn't seem like he has it in terms of being a starter in this league. We'll have to wait and see. He will come back eventually from his high ankle sprain, and we'll see how he does for the rest of the season. But he hasn't looked good so far. He threw 3 interceptions against the Ravens last week. And with a third-string quarterback, even with the Lions' bad defense, they're not outscoring the Lions. The Lions, I think, are going to win this one on the road. All right, guys, so next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks at the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Seattle Seahawks have been an interesting team this year because everyone thought they were going to just absolutely hit the bottom of the NFC without Russell Wilson. But in one of the bigger surprises of this season, Geno Smith has really stepped it up. He was 23 of 30, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he may have played well enough to win himself the starting job even next year. Maybe having a career renaissance here. Rashad Penny had a career game. 17 carries, 151 yards, and 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf finally had a great game, 7 receptions, 149 yards. So, like, these guys are playing well. The Seahawks are playing well. And they're going to have to contend with Andy Dalton and the New Orleans Saints. They were a double doink away from winning the game in London. Unfortunately, that's a lot to put on your kicker. He already made one 60-yarder, and they were expecting him to make another 61-yarder. He missed it, but at the same time, you can't put your kicker in that kind of a position to win you the game. That's a whole offensive game failure to be in that situation to begin with. Andy Dalton was 20 of 28, 236 yards, average. Latavius Murray had 57 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, it was good for him. He's a bit of a journeyman running back who's doing all right, but Saints are, again, a team like the Patriots where they're trying to move on from having a franchise quarterback. They don't even have Sean Payton anymore. So they're really trying to find their footing because, they were a terrible team their entire run as a franchise until Drew Brees got here. And then all throughout Drew Brees' time, they were a top-tier team. Now they're going to have to contend with what they're going to do in a post-Drew Brees, post-Sean Payton era. Are they going to still remain competitive, or are they going to fall back into the dumpster fire that they were before those two got on here? What's going to happen in this game? I think the Seahawks are going to win. I think that Pete Carroll has really showed us how good of a coach he really is without Russell Wilson. Using the strengths that he still has, utilizing Geno Smith's strengths. Geno Smith really showing us that he's a starting quarterback in this league. They have looked pretty darn good. So I am going to be going with the Seahawks with this one. All right, guys, so we got another division rivalry here. We have the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets. Both of these teams the Dolphins lost. The Jets are coming off a very good win. The Dolphins are coming off of a very bad one. So, addressing the elephant in the room, Tua is not going to play this week. I think that's for the best. It seems like they fixed their concussion protocol, or maybe they did, or maybe they didn't. But I was hearing something where they were like, if a player shows some sort of extreme cognitive issue, like when Tua got up and then fell back down, or when his hands were cramping up after that huge hit, he's immediately out of the game, because that is a sign of a very, very traumatic brain injury. And I saw that hit happen live. When I saw it happen, I thought, oh my God, he broke his finger. But then, I realized that, it was a concussion when I saw how he fell when he got hit. I was like, no, yeah, that could have been a concussion. The guy was slammed down. Taken out on a stretcher, very scary stuff. This isn't the end of him as a quarterback, but I am glad they're keeping him out for a game. Honestly, they might even want to keep him out of 2. Who knows? The last thing that the NFL wants, the last thing that Tua wants, is permanent brain damage from a hit that was that scary. While he was in the game, he was 8 of 14 for 110 yards and an interception. Teddy Bridgewater took the reins from him eventually and was 14 for 23, 193 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. I don't think they should rush back Tua because Teddy Bridgewater is a more than competent backup quarterback. He's been a starter before. He's a journeyman. I think that he will easily be able to hold down the reins. I think he's good enough to beat the Jets in this game personally. Tyreek Hill, 10 receptions, 160 yards. If you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to throw to, they will make plays for a lackluster quarterback. And I think that's what they're going to have to do. As for the Jets, they had a very solid win in Zach Wilson's return, his debut for the 2022 season. He was 18 of 36, 252 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Breece Hall had 17 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. Zach Wilson didn't play great, but he played well enough to get the win, and that's, I'm sure, all Jets fans can ask for. I can imagine it being nice to have a young and upcoming quarterback like that leading your team to success. But in this game, I think that even if Tua doesn't play, I think Teddy Bridgewater, like I said, is a more than adequate starter, and I think that he is going to utilize the talent around him to win the game. I think the Dolphins still have a lot of talent on their team to get over a team that the Jets have a lot of young talent, but I still don't think that they are a top team yet. I think they're still in rebuild. I think they're still a work in progress. But if some of this young talent matures, I think that they really could be a force to be reckoned with. Just not right now. I think the Dolphins are a more complete team, and I'm going to be going with the Dolphins on this one. All right, guys, so we got another divisional rivalry here. We have the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Buccaneers are coming off a pretty bad loss against the Chiefs. The Chiefs really demolished them in prime time, and the Falcons had a very good come-from-behind win to defeat the Browns. So both teams kind of going in different directions here. Marcus Mariota was 7 of 19, 139 yards and an interception. Cordarrelle Patterson is out for the season, though, with an injury. That is very bad. He was one of the bigger, if not the biggest playmaker for that team. Now they're going to have to rely on the rookie Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts needs to get himself going. Falcons, I think, have done better than a lot of other people have expected. They're doing better than the Commanders, that's for sure. Which is weird because we play them, so it'll be interesting to see how we fare against them. But the Falcons have shown that they actually aren't too bad of a team. But I don't think they're going to get past the Buccaneers. I still think the Buccaneers are a playoff team. And freaking Tom Brady. I know it's his last season. I know, the memes are aplenty with his family life and shit. He was 39 of 52, 385 yards, and 3 touchdowns. At 45 years old, Tom Brady is still throwing the ball 50 times per game. He leads the league in passing yards right now. There was one play that was called back because of a penalty, but it just amazes me. Tom Brady, I'll see if I can find it. You'll see it right here if I could find it. If I can't find it, I'll just describe it. But basically, Brady drops back. He ducks under pressure. He takes a couple steps in the pocket, throws an absolute dart to, I think, Mike Evans. And it looks like a play that a 25-year-old Brady would make, let alone a 45-year-old Brady. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he is still playing at this level. Like it's one thing if he just stays in the pocket, right, and just makes the easy throw. But he's escaping pressure. He's stepping up in the pocket. He's throwing absolute laser beam in the end zone. If this is Brady's last year, when I tell my kids about Tom Brady, I'm going to say he retired at 45, but he could have kept playing. And I think that's the most amazing thing about this. It's really weird how, now that Tom Brady, we don't really see him as a Super Bowl threat anymore. At least I don't. I can just marvel at what he's able to do at his age. It's just never been done before. It is absolutely never been done before. And I think it's crazy that we get to watch it. We get to see something that we've never seen before. 45-year-old quarterback playing like he's 25. It seems like Brady just has never regressed. In his career, he's had off games, but he's always either gotten better or stayed at his current level. I'm sorry I'm fanboying about Tom Brady here, but when I watched the game, when I saw it, I just can't believe he can still play at this level, at this age, Seeing how Big Ben played when he was 39, he was a walking corpse. Drew Brees at 41, he played all right, but he didn't play a full season. Brett Favre at 41, and Brady has them beat by 4 years, 6 in terms of Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know. Mike Evans, he's on my fantasy team, had a great game, 8 receptions, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Let the record show, he's the greatest wide receiver the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have ever had, and he's probably one of the best of this era. If you look at his stats, he's never not had a 1,000-yard season. The guy's absolutely incredible, and I think people will find out that he is the reason why Johnny Manziel did so well at Texas A&M, because he was throwing to Mike Evans. I digress. I pick him every year in fantasy because he's a consistent guy. But in this game, I think that the Buccaneers are going to win. I think the Falcons they're better than I thought, but I don't think they're good enough to rise to the occasion to beat Tampa Bay on the road. So I'm going to be going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for this one. All right, guys, so we got a battle of the expansion teams here, which was looking like it was going to be a tank bowl last season, but one of these teams actually has expectations. We have the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jaguars had a tough loss against the Eagles. They went up 14-0. The Eagles scored 30 unanswered points, and they ended up losing. Trevor Lawrence was 11 of 23, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Jamal Agnew had 4 receptions for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think that they shouldn't take this loss too hard. I think the Eagles are the best team in the league by far, and I think Jacksonville is still pretty good. I still think that if they keep on the track that they're going to win their division. How about that? After having one of the worst 2-season stretches ever, they bounced back pretty well with Trevor Lawrence finally kind of figuring it out. It really feels like these last couple games, Trevor Lawrence has figured it out. And I think that he's going to rise up into a Joe Burrow level, maybe to a Tagovailoa level. I wouldn't go so far as to say he's like a Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Justin Herbert level just yet. He needs to have, a 35 plus minus 10 interception season first, but he's definitely on that track. As for the Texans, Davis Mills was 26 of 35, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Dameon Pierce, 14 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown. Very, very impressive stuff by Dameon Pierce. But Texans didn't win the game. They're 0-2-1. They have not won, but thankfully they haven't lost all their games. They've tied 1. If the Commanders aren't the worst team in the league, it's probably the Texans. I couldn't even tell you who the best player on their team is. Maybe Brandon Cooks, journeyman wide receiver. They don't have a lot going for them. This is one of those layup games that the Jaguars really should win, but you can never count out the Texans. I don't know what it is about them, but they show up to the most random of games. And in a divisional rivalry like this, it would not surprise me if the Texans have the upset, although I am ultimately going to go for Jacksonville. All right, guys, so next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Carolina Panthers. So 49ers had a good win against the Rams. It'll be yesterday. I'm filming this on Tuesday. They had a very good win. Jimmy G was 16 of 29, 239 yards for a touchdown. And Deebo Samuel, 6 receptions, 115 yards, and 1 touchdown. Had an amazing touchdown run where he broke like 3 tackles, ran like 40 yards. Vintage Deebo Samuel making it work. They beat the defending Super Bowl champions. The 49ers are rolling. As for the Panthers, they're kind of not. Baker hasn't really been given a lot of time to learn the playbook and learn the offense. I think he's doing what he can. He was 22 of 36, 197 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Christian McCaffrey had 9 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown, so it was more of a receiving type game for Christian McCaffrey. They ultimately did not win the game though, and I don't think they're going to win this one either. The 49ers seem like they're just a very sturdy, solid team, and I don't think they're going to lose to the Panthers. The Panthers, I think, are a team that is going to be vying for a top 5 draft pick. It seems like they already have the quarterback that they want to go with. I think it's a matter of if they're going to give Sam Darnold a chance, though, because Baker has not been playing very well. I can't really blame him because they traded him kind of last minute, but I think that I don't know. I don't think they're going to win, though. I'm going to keep this one pretty brief because it seems pretty obvious to me. I'm going to be going with the 49ers on this one. So next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Rams. So Rams had a pretty bad loss against the 49ers on Monday night, and the Cowboys had a pretty easy win over my Commanders on Sunday. Cooper Rush is now 3-0 this season. He was 15 of 27, 223 yards, and 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb tore us apart. He had 6 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Cooper Rush is doing exactly what a backup quarterback needs to do. He needs to play nice, conservative football, win games for his team. I saw a funny statistic that said Dak Prescott wants to play this game this week, but no, they're not going to rush him back because they don't want to further an injury. They're paying him all this money. He's not going to lose his job to Cooper Rush. All these NFL videos saying that there's a quarterback controversy in Dallas. No, there isn't. They paid Dak Prescott way too much money to bench him. When he comes back from his injury, he will be the starter again. And if he starts losing games and they put Cooper Rush in, then maybe we can talk about a quarterback controversy, but not happening right now. As for the Rams, Matt Stafford was 32 of 48, 254 yards and 1 interception. Cooper Kupp had a good game, though, 14 receptions for 122 yards. The Rams, I think if I could summarize them in one game, in one word, it's inconsistent. They will have a good game, but then they'll do this, where Matt Stafford will throw an interception for no touchdowns, and they won't get going, and they'll lose to the 49ers. I mean, I know the 49ers are a good team. I know they're division rivals, but you're the defending Super Bowl champions. These are games that you should win. It seems like the Rams went all out on their Super Bowl run last season, and they just don't have any juice left. They're looking like they might sneak into the playoffs versus actually winning their division. Their division has ended up being very, very competitive with the 49ers, and hell, even the Seattle Seahawks to an extent. They've been pretty competitive too. So this is a game that the Rams need to win. The Cowboys are 3-1. They have been playing above their ceiling right now with Cooper Kupp. I think that the Cowboys could give the Rams a run for their money, but it's at home, and it's a game that the Rams really need to win. So I'm going to be going at the Rams on this one. So next up, we have another very interesting game. We have the 4-0 Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. To put it simply, the Eagles are legit. They are not winning these games by the skins of their teeth or by luck. They are just an incredibly well-rounded team with skill players at skill positions, with Jalen Hurts really coming into his own. They're legit, and I think they're the team to beat in the NFC. And they honestly might go 5-0 against the Cardinals. Jalen Hurts was 16-25, 204 yards and an interception, so it wasn't his best game. Miles Sanders really took the cake, though. He had 27 carries for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like I said with the Jaguars, the Eagles were down 14-0, and they scored 30 unanswered points and came back and won the game. That's not a fluke. That's something that a good, well-disciplined team does. So I think that the playoffs are a whole other story. We have no idea. They could be one and done in the playoffs for all I know. But in terms of the regular season, I think they have a chance of having the best record in the league, because the Cardinals are okay, but they're another team that's playing below their expectations. Kyler Murray was 23-32 for 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Hollywood Brown was 6 receptions, 88 yards, and 1 touchdown. They have yet to really... They're usually known for getting up to their hot starts, which is not happening now. They still don't have DeAndre Hopkins. I don't even know how much better they're going to be with DeAndre Hopkins, to tell you the truth. The Eagles just seem like a juggernaut right now, and I think the only kind of team that I think can beat the Eagles at this stage are a team like the Bills, are a team like the Chiefs, are a team like the Packers maybe. Like the upper echelon of teams, I think, are the only ones that can beat the Eagles, because a team that can come back from a 14-point deficit and score 30 points to take a commanding lead is not going to lose to an inferior team at this stage, unless they just don't show up, which can very easily happen. That's happened before. Last season, the Commanders beat the Buccaneers because they just didn't show up to the game. But I am going to be going with the Eagles on this one as they improve to 5-0. Unbelievable. All right, guys, so now we're at the Sunday night game, another division rivalry. We have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens blew yet another lead and lost out to the Bills. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the Ravens have a real problem with blown leads. They did this last season too. They didn't lose as many games, but I remember specifically it was a primetime game against the Colts. They went down 21 points, I believe. The Ravens did end up coming back and winning, but you can't you can't let that happen. You can't build leads and lose those leads. You just can't blow leads like that. Even if you're a good enough team that you think you can come back at the end of the day and win the game, that's not going to cut it in the playoffs. You need to, if you're going to take a lead, you need to keep that lead and win the game convincingly. You can't let the other team get back into the game. And the Ravens have a serious problem with that. Lamar Jackson, kind of an off game for him. He was 20 of 29, 144 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. So it seems like we know the kind of quarterback Lamar Jackson is. He will either go off for 100 rushing yards and a touchdown, or 4 passing touchdowns or stuff like that. Or he'll have a game like this, which is a bit more pedestrian. Saying that, it still wasn't very bad. He was 20 for 29, so I mean, not too bad in terms of passing. I think the narrative of Lamar Jackson not being a good passing quarterback is getting a bit overrated. I think that he's shown me at least enough that he's a good passer. The only thing is, he has still not shown me if he can rely on it. Because you got to imagine defenses scheme in case Lamar does run, which means they have a different play scheme for the pass, which I think makes passing for Lamar easier. But if you 100% rely on the pass, we'll see what happens. But I think that's what just makes Lamar so great. Barring a huge injury, I think he's going to be in the league for longer than I thought he was going to after these last couple weeks. As for the Bengals, they had a solid win against the Dolphins on Thursday night. Joe Burrow was 20 of 31, 287 yards and 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins was with 7 receptions, 124 yards and a touchdown. They played well. They got a little bit lucky because Tua went out, but they played well. What can I say? And they really have righted the ship after their 0-2 start. What's going to happen in this game? Well, the Ravens are 0-5 for their last home games. They've lost their last 5 home games. This is a Sunday night game in prime time. The lights are going to be on. The crowd is going to be hot. Ravens games are very lit. I have some friends that have been to some, and they are exciting. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I think the Ravens are going to bounce back, though, and I think they are going to win after such a bad loss. They're going to come back in prime time Sunday night. They have a lot to prove. All eyes are going to be on them, and I think they're going to have a very good performance, and I think they're going to beat the Bengals. All right, guys, so now it's time for Monday night. We have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs have another fantastic showing against the Buccaneers. Patrick Mahomes, again, unbelievable, 23-37, 249 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 19 carries for 92 yards and a touchdown. Travis Kelce had 9 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown. So the Chiefs are back in their championship caliber form. It's very, very impressive. They're back to where they were, back in their Super Bowl winning ways. That 2021 slow start seems to be a thing of the past. They are firing on all cylinders. As for the Raiders, they had a very good win against the Broncos. Pretty much saved their season now that they're 1-3, although I think they're going to go 1-4 in this game. Derek Carr still didn't play well, though. He was 21 of 34 for 188 yards. Davante Adams had 9 receptions for 101 of those yards. So he still isn't playing well. It's no wonder they're 1-3. But they could have beaten the Cardinals very easily. Just the Cardinals came back and won. It's weird. Josh Jacobs had a good game, though. He 28 carries, 144 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he had a career game. Those 2 touchdowns really helped out. He was a workhorse for them against the Broncos. But to come in on the road Monday night into Arrowhead, I just don't see it happening, honestly, with the Raiders. It would be a big upset, but the Chiefs are just at the height of their powers right now, and they could very easily make a Super Bowl run right now. So I don't think the Raiders are going to take this one. I am going to be going with the Chiefs as they advance to 4-1. All right, guys, so that concludes my Week 5 predictions. Thank you guys so much for watching. Every week, get a bit more confident in front of the camera. My predictions become a bit more well-researched. Thank you guys for watching again. I will see you next week. Peace out.